Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine. So you want to be a dog trainer. Well, let's talk about how you become a dog trainer. And I'm going to talk about how I became a dog trainer. So, I think there are two key components to any half-decent dog trainer. And just to be clear, there are no certifications in Canada and the United States, I don't know about the rest of the world, to be a dog trainer. So if, for example, if you want to be a lawyer, there's a certain level of education and practice that you have to meet in order to become a lawyer, or a doctor or something like that. You have to meet a certain objective standard in order to become that thing. For a dog trainer, any idiot can hang a shingle out and call himself a dog trainer, and many of them do. You can even have a TV show and call yourself a dog trainer, and some of them do. So, but that doesn't make you a dog trainer. The dogs don't read your certifications. I know you can go online and you can pay one of these online organizations, that have they're like big acronyms like CCABT or whatever the heck nonsense they call themselves, right? And you take their multiple choice test, or maybe you have a degree in behavioral dog animal behavior, and they'll give you their little certification, but it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything, and you don't need it in order to be a dog trainer. I have zero certifications from anyone, okay? I have thousands of dogs that I've trained. Those are my certifications. I have hundreds of videos of dogs that we've trained, and me showing the training. Those are my certifications, right? Dogs don't lie. So, anyways, back on topic. What are the two key components of any good dog trainer? Number one is a solid understanding of the theory behind which your practice is based, okay? You really have to understand why what you do works. There are a lot of dog trainers that can train a dog. They have really good instinctive ability to train a dog. They really can't explain effectively why it works. And for me, that's a big failing as a dog trainer, because a big part of your job is not to train dogs. It is to explain to people that come to you for help how to train their dog. The vast majority of my clients, I don't train their dog. I train them to train their dog, right? Unless I have that dog in my hands day in and day out, I can't train it, all right? So if I can't impart to you what to do and why you need to do it, whatever specific way that I'm asking you to do it, I'm not going to be a very good dog trainer. So it's really important for any half-decent dog trainer to understand the theory behind the practice, okay? So that doesn't come from going to school, because to be quite frank, a lot of the stuff they're teaching people in school, it's utopian ideology. It's this positive only. This is where this positive only nonsense comes from, right? And that's what they teach a lot of these supposed behaviorists in school is this positive only training. And that's why my business does so well, because this stuff is permeated like a cancer throughout the vast majority of dog trainers are still positive only, fear-free, force-free, all these emotional feel-good kind of monikers that mean basically that you can't effectively train dogs or stop behaviors, and that doesn't help anybody. So I don't mean going to school. I mean self-study, taking responsibility. Listen, in this day and age, you can educate yourself to be anything, all right? There is tons of literature out there on animal psychology, dog psychology, equine psychology, and as a dog trainer, I study it all. I'm very interested in dog psychology, right? But I'm also interested in human psychology. I'm interested in how horses learn. There's a lot of things that you can take in to really understand behavioral science, how it works, how you can apply it to dogs specifically, and so on and so forth. So this is an important thing, and this is you. It's on you. You got to do this. Nobody's going to give that to you. You have to go and take your own responsibility. Is there literature that I recommend? No, I don't. There wasn't one thing that I read that was aha. there's a lot of stuff out there on video. So if you're not a big reader, you can get a lot of it on YouTube. I'm sure, if you've kind of started the journey, you've run into Michael Ellis. Michael Ellis has some solid stuff that would really help a beginner kind of understand things. You have to understand classical conditioning. You have to understand operant conditioning. And you have to understand the limitations of both those things, right? So study up. Number 2, and perhaps more important, practice. There is nothing that beats training, a couple hundred dogs. There's nothing that will beat that. You have to do that in order to be an effective dog trainer. Now, there are a lot of people, they kind of like, they have a German Shepherd or a Malinois or a Border Collie, and over a couple years, they kind of like trained it, does some tricks, it does some cool stuff. Maybe they use the e-collar, they've got some recalls, they got some off-leash healing, and now they think, yes, I'm a dog trainer. Look at my dog, he does very well, right? Until you train that Mastiff or that Bull Terrier, and oh my God, he's trying to bite me, and he doesn't want to do anything, and he doesn't care about my food or my toys, and what do I do? Or you train that fearful wreck of a dog, that somebody in their infinite wisdom adopted from the streets of Dubai or something, and it's like this quivering wreck that a slight amount of pressure causes the dog to shut down, and the smallest noise causes the dog to empty its bowels, right? What do you do with that dog, right? All of a sudden, all that stuff that worked for your German Shepherd or your Lab or your Border Collie, it isn't working anymore. What do you do, right? And that's where that experience comes in. That's where that, self-education comes in. That's where that, there's nothing that beats experience. There's nothing that beats training, a couple 100, 1,000 dogs. So how do you get that experience, right? Well, it starts with your own dogs. I can't tell you the amount of dog trainers I've seen, and their own dog is not well behaved. Their own dog, can't do the things that they're supposedly telling you how to do. If they can't do it with their own dog, how are they going to teach you how to do it? Come on, So there's a lot of that, okay? And then can you show replicable results? So, and I think the big thing here is training to a standard, okay? And I think one of the big things that really worked for me and the business that I have, and why we got big so quick in the grand scheme of things, is because I've always had a standard that we train to. I have a no dog left behind policy, all right? And I have a standard of on and off leash obedience and overall behavior that I hold all the dogs that train with me to, whether you're in group classes or whether I did a board and train. I have that standard. And if the dog doesn't meet that standard, by hook or by crook, I find a way to get the dog to that standard. And I take it personally when a dog doesn't reach that standard. I don't take it personally on the dog, though in the past, let's be honest, you do get frustrated and maybe you do things that you shouldn't do knowing now what I know. But regardless, there's that standard. And getting the dog to that standard is a big part of you learning what it takes to train different types of dogs. You have 1,000 dogs, you have 1,000 different types of dogs. Now, within those 1,000, you have several broad general types, and the more dogs you train, the more you start to recognize the types. It's like, oh, I kind of know what he's going to do before he does it, and oh, he's going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and he's going to do this. So you're able to kind of anticipate the dog and tailor your training specifically to the type of dog that you're dealing with. And not to say that you don't still run into surprises, but that comes from experience. So in the beginning, you train your own personal dogs. Then, if you're serious about this, you find ways to get your hands on other people's dogs, or maybe you start rescuing dogs, you train them, and then maybe you sell them for a low price, or you just train them and adopt them out for free. But by hook or by crook, you better get your hands on some dogs, and different kinds of dogs. Don't just do it with one type. Don't just do Labs. Don't just do Shepherds. You better spread your knowledge, okay? And take on the challenge. Take that English Bulldog in and train him and see what it takes to make that standard. And have a standard. CGC is not a standard, okay? Just to be clear. My dog's CGC. Yeah, so your dog can exist in a room. That's not a standard, guys. Okay, so make a standard. And listen, this is the other thing. Vary your experience. So I have my functional obedience training, all right? And that's a standard that I train all the dogs to, whether I own them or whether they're dogs that are, clients' dogs. But then I also do things like competition sport, dog sport, okay? And the important thing with this, and I think any good trainer challenges themselves by going outside of, what it is that they do every day. So functional obedience, that's the bread and butter. That's what I do with the vast majority of client dogs. Competition dog sport. Now that's a whole different kettle of fish. It's a completely different thing. We're training for something completely different. The challenges are completely different, and there's competition. You get to measure yourself against other people. And a lot of those people are going to be better than you at that thing. So, any good dog trainer, anybody who's good at anything or wants to be good at anything, surrounds themselves or puts themselves in places and positions where there are people that are better than them at that thing. And that's what competition dog sport will do. You'll run into some real savages out there. Guys or girls that are like, they're on the top, man. They're on the world level. And if you're not aspiring to be on that level in the work that you're doing, I don't think you're going to be very good as a dog trainer. Okay? And it pushes you mentally, pushes you physically, and it pushes your training and your dog, and it pushes your understanding of what is and what is not. My biggest thing, I think the biggest reason, aside from the fact that I have this standard that I hold all the dogs to for my success, is I have a leg in the sport world, okay, the competition world. I have a leg in the functional world and the behavior modification world, okay? And then I have a leg in the real working world as well, where we do the personal protection dogs or some police dogs and stuff like this, right? So I get a little bit of everything, and each of those fields has something to share, something to give, and each of those fields is constantly teaching you something new. So don't just be stuck in one. You see so many dog trainers, they just do one thing, and maybe they're good at it, but what's really stopping them from being excellent, I think, is that varied stuff. I've taken things from competition dog sport and applied them to my functional training and seen great results, and vice versa. I've taken things from the functional training knowledge that I have and put them in my knowledge of dog sport and made results there. So it is one of those things where you need to vary your experience, and you need to get your hands on some dog, and you need to train to a standard, right? And a lot of dog trainers don't do that. They learn enough to get by, and then they just keep on getting by. And I don't think that's any way to live, and I don't think that's any way to run a business.